All right. Looks like we're green means go, right there, YouTube. Good morning. Welcome to Friday. I think we're looking pretty good today. I'm telling you, Thursdays, just going to start. Not even worrying about it because every Thursday there's something going on. So, probably, I get like a whole new data connection of some sort that's bulletproof. But how's everybody doing this morning? We are wet and overloaded here. It's been downright wet. Feels like you're in South Alabama or something. Had thunderstorms last night. It was quite interesting. Some pretty good lightning strikes. Fortunately, everything was wet. Nothing caught on fire, I don't think, anywhere. You see in the weather, we got more coming over the mountains. California's getting drenched. So it's all good on the waterfront out here. There was an article yesterday about the Southwest drought, Arizona and Colorado, southern Utah areas are concerned still. But we're doing pretty good up here. Kind of like a dividing line out there somewhere. But plenty of rain out in the central U.S. it looks like coming, and I didn't see the big. There's talking about a possible tropical storm starting up in the Caribbean there for you folks down in Florida and whatnot. So watch out for that. Speaking of Florida and everything, I guess I should get the side chat working so I can see what's going on out there with all you folks. Let's see. Hey, good morning, Scotsman. What's going on? Thanks for joining us. Hope things are good where you are at. I want to say you're up near Rich somewhere in that area, but I never knew where you were exactly at. It doesn't really matter, but reference the general area. Out there in the Virginia, greater North Carolina, South Carolina area or something. But that's the weather. Wait, Scotsman, you're near Cleveland? Is Ohio overtaking YouTube? Seems like for the last 6 months, every new or relatively new person I've run into or whatnot is either from Cleveland, of Ohio, or from Canada. There's only like 3 people I know from Nevada. What's up with that? It's like nobody in Nevada's on the YouTube, I don't think, which is in this realm, I guess maybe. There's a couple channels out there, but I guess it's just a population density thing. Yeah, exactly. See, all you Ohioans. Will have to put me a big. I don't know. We'll figure something out. I have to cull the herd, I guess. So, a couple stories we got lined up here for, and I don't know why we haven't followed this up a little bit previously, but they've put up some big law in the EU that just took effect about data regulation. It's called the General Data Protection Regulation. Affects companies located in the European Union, about those that have operations and customers there too. So all your big Googles and everything, I think it affects. But it says the key principle is giving consumers control of their data. So I don't know how this might affect us in dealing with all these companies. I know there was some terms of service changes, especially if you're in the EU last week, but I didn't look into it. So this is me looking into it, I guess. If we get some of our Europeans in here, maybe they could explain it. We'll have Angel get a hold of the German invasion and see if they can explain it to us, what it means to them on the ground, because you know how the news might miss key pieces. GDPR is a piece of legislation that was approved April 2016. 2 years to comply to it, which takes into force May 25th, 2018. Okay. So they've been working on this for a while, or had the opportunity to work on it. It replaces previous data protection directives, yada, yada. The aim is to give consumers control of their personal data as it is collected by companies. So anybody that does business in the EU has to comply with this or offers goods and services. Biggest focus is on consent. Companies will not be able to use vague or confusing statements to get you to agree to give them data. Firms won't be able to bundle consent for different things together either. Now the big question is the government going to follow these rules? Sure, the companies you're interacting with can't get your data, but what's the government doing? So an example here is if you have a page of different consent and saying by clicking here you consent to lots of things, that will be wrong. You need to be able to apply that consent individually. So you'd have to go page by page on each different consent form. Sounds like it'd be a big boondoggle going through trying to approve that. Rule makes it mandatory for companies to notify their data protection authority about data breaches within 72 hours. Processors of data need to notify customers without undue delay after learning of the breach, according to the EU. Okay. So this is again in your Dropbox. There's several links on the Drudge to it as well. The top left corner. There's several stories up about it. So if you're doing business in the EU, watch out. But there was one of the links on the Drudge went to this Wall Street Journal article talking about sites going dark in Europe as these rules kicked in. Let's see what kind of examples of who was affected the most. So Trunk Incorporated, that publishes the Los Angeles Times, the New York Daily News, and other U.S. newspapers, was among those blocked to readers in the European Union from accessing sites because they haven't complied with the regulations yet. So that's interesting. Lots of other regional newspapers owned by Lee Enterprise, as well as bookmarking app Imps, whatever the name of that is, Pinterest, are also blocked. Pinterest is blocked in the EU as well. So it's already had effect from data going across. I wonder how the Google's getting blocked over there, the YouTube and whatnot. I haven't heard anything on our end, but anybody in the EU can check in with us this morning. Stefan Minkenberg is usually over there, but Depends on what days he checks in with us. Maybe he can't see us because we're blocked. Maybe that's it. If we're not getting anybody checking in because they can't see the website, that would explain everything, right? Currently, as of right now, firms that violate EU's privacy rules risk fines as high as 4% of their global revenue. Ooh, that's pretty steep when you talk about these big companies. 4% of your global GDP, or not GDP, your gross revenue. That would be pretty, that would hurt the bottom line for sure. Is that for each individual violation or just broadly you don't comply? Do they tally up like you have 10 violations? That's 40%. That could get ugly fast, depending on how that's written. So everybody's still scrambling to get this thing in place and figure out if they're complying with this Data Privacy Control Act type of thing. See what y'all saying out there. Sorry. Yeah, right. Oxjaw's got it. Data equals money, so businesses aren't going to give that up or not try to collect it easily. And the thing about this Oxjaws, I think they're still going to want to go after it. It's just a matter of you have to consent to it, and they have to make it relatively straightforward, where you have to consent straightforwardly. You can't say broadly, I consent to all these terms and regulations contained in this link over here. You would have to go to each page and have to display all your data that's being collected on that page where you consent. Something to that effect. So it's not referencing some other policy somewhere else. It's saying it's don't have that policy on the page that you click on. It's the way that's kind of written. They're talking about Facebook separate, not talking about the compliance but Facebook's other issues. Facebook has worked hard to comply with this. I wonder if these companies are able to separate their EU stream from their US, Western stream or everywhere else. And like if we have different compliance policies, or if we're all going to be able to have to go through and recheck our stuff. However, the server chain works for stuff like that. So that's something to look into. Again, links are below. Check on your data. Is it maybe affected going into or out of Europe? May affect why we have European viewers or not as well. Hey, good morning, Alicia. How are you doing? Walter Davis has joined us. Barry Wood is with us. Walter, perfect way to end the discussion is to block it. Your phone's pausing. I think it's on your end because I'm looking straight and clear over here after yesterday's debacle. Castaway Planet, good morning. Welcome. Hey, Caregiver, good morning. How are you doing? All right. Checking in. So that's the situation on the internets, I guess. Speaking of the EU, we'll pop in on this. We've been trying to follow up on the Spain Catalonia situation for quite some time. It's been over a year in the making, really. The Catalonian secession has been in the works. Catalonia elected a new leader because their other one was otherwise imprisoned. And I believe in Germany, last I heard, or Denmark. And they elected a new guy who's also pro-secession. So Spain is maintaining control and directly governing Catalonia as of this time. So this was from earlier in the week at 20th. I haven't followed up on this in a while, so I didn't realize how far behind we were. But things are moving along. People are disgruntled, still mad at the central government. It's basically Madrid and the central Spanish government saying, "Oh no, we don't like those people. You can't do that. We're going to govern over you." Uh, that's the bottom line. Catalonia is trying to go. I mean, Catalonia warned them over. I remember reading stories a year ago. You can do this the peaceful way because we're here at the table bargaining with you. We're going to secede, or you can do this the painful way, which, if you look back at the decades of violence in Catalonia, uh, 10, 20 years ago, it would be like, it goes in waves, kind of like Northern Ireland. Not quite as that bad, but similar. You go in waves, high points and low points. So the Spanish leader said that once a full and legal government was running in Catalonia, that's the key word. What do they consider legal? Spain makes the rules. They say what's right and what's not. So they're never going to agree on that, probably, or not anytime soon, at least. Several of the cabinet members are currently in jail in Brussels, still looks like. So Catalonia must get approval from Madrid before anything will change in the power structure of governing the area and the legal status of some of the candidates for some of the different positions in the Catalonian government. Remember, they sacked the Catalonian police chief simply because he wouldn't go out and suppress the protesters, like back during the elections last year. So it could get ugly over there as you continue to look into it. Yeah, Puigdemont, the Catalonian leader, still in Berlin, awaiting extradition. So that's just an update on that end as I was looking into it. If any of you care, I care. I've been following it, so seeing how that process has been going. Also, to our neighbors up north, I kind of linked this over to Stan last night. There was a bomb in Ontario. You don't hear of stuff in Canada very often, so I wanted to look in and see what this exactly might be about. There were 15 patients injured. I think there were a couple dead, but it had all the hallmarks of your kind of typical IED type thing. So two suspects detonated an IED inside a restaurant in Toronto, Canada, which is right in Stan's backyard, I'm pretty sure. 15 patients were transported. Two suspects fled immediately after the explosion, and the police is asking for assistance. So I don't know that they've caught him yet. In the descriptions here of the two suspects, one is in his mid-20s and light skin. The second was thin and fair skin. Is there a difference between fair skin and light skin? Somebody help me out with that. Alicia, do you consider yourself to have fair skin or light skin? I don't know what that means. That's like the best picture they got. They were wearing hoodies, etc. So more to follow on that. It was an Indian restaurant, apparently. It's called Bombay Bell, so an Indian style um, food at this place. So who knows what that's about. We'll have to see if anything is updated. I didn't see anything on the Drudge about it, but it was here. So see what that's all about. When you got IEDs going off north of the border, that means it's not far away for us. What's going on in the side chat? Walter Davis asked what I think of the Twitter lawsuit. The jewel rolled that is a public domain, right? And Trump can't block his users. And it's weird how they ruled on that. I think it'll go to the Supreme Court. I don't think they're going to let that stand because it's about access, I guess. You can still view the president's tweets. You just can't be logged into that account. I mean, you can look at Twitter without having an account and look at the president's feed or anybody else's. But I don't know. Walter. I'm sure it'll go further up the court chain. Because again, you can view it. It's still public. It's just you can't get in there and comment back. So I guess that's a limit. I guess that's probably the limit on free speech is you can't comment back as a member of the public if you're blocked. So, and as far as who would enforce that, I guess that's the FCC's territory, right? Or would it be the FBI? Because if it's a violation, I think we're talking about federal rules here more so than federal law at current. So there's nothing written to enforce it with right now currently. So I don't know. It would have to be something written to back up the enforcement side of it. Because I think it's a pretty vague area right now. But we'll see. I'm sure it'll go further up the court chain for sure. Okay, Alicia, light. Okay, not fair. Okay, got it. Kind of a weird choice of words by him. Oh, okay. You look at the fair as super white. Okay, so you consider yourself super white, fair. Okay, that's the difference. Now we know. So one of these guys that did this bombing was super white, and the other was just any light shade of white. Okay, got it. Which could be totally off considering eyewitness accounts, and these videos could not have a good, accurate description anyway. So we did have a feel-good story out of the U.S. yesterday. I think everybody saw this early in the afternoon yesterday here. Somebody went into a restaurant in Oklahoma and was shot by an armed citizen. That's all we like to hear stories like that. And the key here is he was fatally shot, put to the ground and put down. I think two of the victims were at the hospital. I don't think anybody had, none of them were fatalities, I don't think. It says a mother and daughter were shot. They were the victims, which is kind of odd. You would think that would be somebody they know directly, maybe. Maybe not a random act when things like that happen. The suspect was an 18 to 20-year-old white male, entered and opened fire. Mother and daughter celebrating a birthday were the victims. Sounds like a direct target, like had it out for them. Third female victim has minor injuries. Suspect exited the restaurant. So yeah, he didn't go in there and like dump a magazine. He went directly after this lady and her daughter, it looks like. Exited the restaurant, confronted by a citizen who took out his own firearm, shot and killed the suspect. Bravo. The suspect has not been identified, but he is a young 20-year-old male, I guess. So that's the brief story, local and that says of last night, so it may have been updated, but I didn't see any updates. So it's a good story, but it'd be interesting to hear some follow-up on how the shooter knew the victims, because it sounds like he probably did, shot and fled, and then hero bystanding citizen took out and shot him down. So careful what you do in Oklahoma. It's about what you'd expect. Hey, good morning, J Mac. Thanks for joining us. Tweeting is a juvenile way to receive information. Well, the way that POTUS uses his Twitter is pretty juvenile too, so I don't know which is. The Twitter sphere is a pretty useful resource for some of the ways you can get quick information, but you definitely have to pay attention to what you're filtering because it can get pretty crazy quick, not exactly be accurate. Barry, your white glow stick in the sun, white. Okay, got it. I thought that I'll just consider that Irish white. Does that count? Yeah, James, you have to be on the right channels to get this story out of Oklahoma. It's not everywhere. I don't even know if it was on, was it on Drudge? I got it somewhere else, so I didn't even check on here. I don't think even, okay, it's over on one link over here on the side. Yeah, there's not like multiple links, it's just this one. So they haven't followed up with anything over the night. Probably have to be in Oklahoma to get anything about the actual shooter and any other follow-on information. Follow that police, who's the local police here, Oklahoma City Police. Follow them on Twitter. They might identify the suspect, et cetera, et cetera. Put out more public information. Do that. Speaking of Twitter, might be your source. Hey, good morning, Stefan. We were just talking about you. We actually, second story in, we were talking about this EU privacy data law. Any comments or any links you can give us to look into how that affects you? Obviously, you got to the chat, so we're not blocked, so we're relieved by that. But we were wondering how that might affect overall. They were saying there's and stuff that were blocked out this morning and whatnot. We have the U.S. Wall Street Journal was reporting that. But just throw that out for you. I guess it's kind of a lot to put in the side chat, but just a question. Do you think it affects most people, or is it kind of everybody complied and is moving on? I guess would be the point. Kenneth the fam, good morning. How you doing? Welcome. Exploring with CF. Right? Yeah, not enough. When people use guns for good, it's not reported very hard. You don't. It doesn't get played up in the press for days and days. Hero saves multiple, shooters, whatnot. Well, even that one kid that just took the gun from the guy in the, what was it, Waffle House a couple weeks ago. I mean, that's pretty it's pretty brave. You go in there, the guy's got a gun, you just take it from him. That's pretty awesome. And that, lasted about 24 hours, seemed like, unless you were local to it. Right. Yeah, that Illinois story, that was just in the last couple weeks too. That was recently. Yeah, that once that school resource officer stopped him, that didn't get much more play in the press after that, right? Indeed. So I think it's going to affect journalism as a whole, Stefan. They were talking about how they were concerned about the like data privacy rules of Google and Facebook and everything. Seems to not have a problem complying, but that it's interesting that newspaper sites are blocked. Um, people that publish the New York Times and the New York Daily News. Several of the U.S. newspapers are blocked to readers in the EU. So you think that's the biggest effect? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right, CF. I mean, he was lucky, but what other option did he have? He was probably a target anyway, so he might as well go down trying to disarm the guy. So I guess he made that decision, right? Which brought, I mean, again, good on him. You can't, if you only got one option, it's fight or flight. Either you go and confront the guy and try to take him, disarm him, or you run. So he chose the fight, which again, that was good for him. He definitely saved probably several people there. So what else is going on in everybody else's neck of the woods? We got about 5 more minutes. We can look something up or whatnot. I haven't seen anything new on the South Africa front. We talked about the farmers seeking refuge in Australia earlier in the week. We talked about that. A lot of Pat's, I'm not sure what you mean there, Stefan. Pat's channels are banned. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Stefan. A lot of Pat's channels are banned in the EU. Or is this, you talking about YouTube channels? Is that the name of a YouTube channels? Yeah, CF. There was an article the other day, like 15,000 people had left Illinois already this year, something like that. They estimated, based upon various taxes and other rules. Um, but the state property tax, yeah, because usually a property tax is levied locally for local services, but now the state's trying to get in on the action. I think we read an article about that earlier in the week too, where it was a graduated. They like broke down like it was more like a fee than a tax, but it was based upon the valuation. It wasn't like a percentage. Hmm. Maybe that was something. I can't remember what that was. But yeah, Illinois is looking at any way to tax you, or looking at any way to tax you from Chicago and have all the money go there. Probably. We saw that earlier in the year that one suburb of Chicago passing that assault weapons ban that was even against the law in Illinois. Hey, Jay Thornton, good morning. How are you? Thanks for checking in. Does how does the feds have a rule on property tax? It's not in their jurisdiction. It's not in there. I don't know that they can, but the IRS is threatening the state for trying to tax over the. I don't know if the feds can limit the taxation within a state. I mean, if I was Illinois and I wanted to do it, and if they wanted to do it, they could definitely take it to court over the thing because feds can't tell a state how to tax or what to tax. And they shouldn't be able to either, for that matter. But that's separate. I mean, I don't want to see Illinoisans getting soaked in the tax process, but feds have no jurisdiction over them either in that respect, if you ask me. Stefan, you can't take pics without asking all the people on public. So you can't take public pictures without asking everybody in the video or pick public video. So it's not public domain. You're not considered in public domain in Europe. How does that work? So can you not watch all the public videos from here in the United States because everybody's not been asked in the video to I mean, how do they televise sporting events? Well, I guess when you buy a ticket, it says on the back, your image may be used and likeness may be distributed, etc., with partners, yada yada. So I guess that covers those public events whenever you buy a ticket into something. But I mean, how does the news get blanket immunity on that when they're covering something in public in the EU? The news goes out and they just get carte blanche, but everybody else is restricted. So you don't have freedom of the press. Obviously, you don't have independent press, especially. Yeah, James, I think if they've got a gripe from the IRS in Illinois, they definitely could go after the Communist Republic of California on their taxation policies, if that's the case. Oh, the write-off. Yeah, I remember the write-off, CF, that the recent changes in the tax write-off were really soaking people in the high tax states. I do remember seeing that. So you mentioned Patriot Channel, Stefan. What would you? I know they have that England First movement or Britain First. Is that what kind of channels you're talking about? Um, I'm not familiar with a lot of the, I guess, YouTube channels over there that would consider themselves Patriot channels in the EU. So when they do public marches and stuff, they could get taken down over those issues. I wasn't aware of that. That's kind of interesting. That's okay. I see what you're saying. Illinois was trying to get a tax so that the people in Illinois could write it off on their federal taxes to get back what they were missing because of the new tax law, which doesn't allow them to write off state income tax. I think I see what you're. Yeah, they're trying to play games with it, especially the high rollers in Chicago were getting hit hard with that. Yeah, that's a big tax. I mean, the whole tax code is a scam anyway, but it's really hurting people in the Connecticut, New York, California places. Okay. Yeah, that's a convoluted mess for sure. Hard to understand, especially just trying to do it through a chat like this. But yeah, all the big high tax states are definitely trying to find ways to, you might say, help their people, but it's just for the big tax people who can use a lot of write-offs is who it affects the most, the high rollers who are getting soaked now. So one last thing I just saw pop up here, and we'll cut it out, but in the Ebola outbreak, apparently, so there's a new story out. A priest is infected with Ebola as the death toll is revised down. Um, so they're seeing how are they going to start playing this up again? How contained can they keep this new outbreak in the Congo? It's been going on for a couple months now until they declared an outbreak. But they revised the death toll down to 22, and this priest is quarantined as he has been infected. So it doesn't say his sign that he doesn't have how sick he is or anything yet. So the total number of infected is down to 52 now. 31 are confirmed. So that means they have 52 in quarantine, and are supervising them or observing them for signs. 13 probable and 8 suspected cases. So that's been going on. It has reached the main town of Kinshasa, which is Not good when you get it into a major city like that still has low sanitation standards, which helps it spread with people get contact and whatnot. So here's the big one, though. They are targeting vaccination campaign with this new experimental vaccine they've got. They are using it over there. And UNICEF, of course, says it was helping schools and children protect against. More to follow on that. We'll have to stay on top of that to see what those effects are, if they even report on the effects. I'm tearing to go over there to study this stuff and kind of track, other than people who work for like the National Institutes of Health and the CDC and whatnot. People who are part of the system. I don't know if there's anybody independent going over there to kind of keep an eye on things like that. Anybody want to volunteer? Alicia, I know you're down with that, right? Maybe not. Hey, good morning, Jay Sparks. Hey, what's up? Yeah, they're pushing vaccination now on that new Ebola experimental vaccine, it looks like. So if it's going to the school children, that's interesting. You look at most of the Ebola cases, it's usually adults because that's where just the interaction's going. It's not like influenza, which gets spread easily through the air, so kids pass it from kids to kid. But they went and they vaccinated the school kids first, it looks like, or that's one of their big pushes is to get school kids. Like, okay, even though that's not the target and it's not the biggest victim group, they went right after the kids. What does that tell you? That's a big tell right there. The target population for the vaccine versus the target population that the disease is affecting. Here it says a father asked his children to be careful not to shake hands with people and stop playing with their friends in games that would cause contact between them. When you actually have to have bodily fluid and exchanged, and you have to have a fever, at least you have to at least have a fever to pass Ebola. You may not have to be necessarily symptomatic otherwise, but anyway, that's interesting push they're doing there. And the rain's picking up on this end. Goodness, how much rain you getting, Sparks? Because we're getting drenched. California only helps the movie industry, J-Mac, right? Isn't there more than 2 strains of Ebola? I thought there were a couple. There's the like couple different rivers versions, I guess you'd say. I thought there were more than 2 though, but you've probably looked into it. There are multiple strains of Ebola. It's not just like, it's not as bad as the influenza where there's multiples, but there have been several variations of the Ebola. In the details. Hey, Poison Stinger, good morning. Hey, yeah, Poison. But we've got the solution. The guy in Oklahoma has got the solution to what they do if they come for your guns. You just shoot them. So if you didn't see that story out of Oklahoma yesterday evening. Oh, we're signing you up to send you to Africa, Alicia? Awesome. Excellent. All right, Explore and CF. We'll see you later. Be safe out there in enemy territory. Yeah, rain in your two. Yeah, Jay Sparks. We saw the weather map showing lots of rain in our area. We're getting drenched right now. Yeah, Poison. There was stories about that. I think everything south of Tonopah is pretty dry. All through the southwest, all southern Utah, Colorado. They're talking about that lack of rain. They're trying to wrap us into it, but up here it's been nice ever since last year. All right, I'm gonna have to wrap it up. Thanks for coming in, folks. Appreciate it. Have a good Friday. Go out and do whatever voodoo it is that you do. But definitely enjoy your Friday. Come home safe. And we will see you tomorrow, if not earlier. Live free.